Good morning, I'm Matt Driskill, editor of Asian Aviation Magazine and AsianAviation.com. Welcome to the latest in conversation, sponsored by VistaJet of Hong Kong. Today we're speaking with Amy Yang. She just got a new title. She's Director of Marketing and Partnerships for Asia Pacific and the Middle East at Vista, which owns VistaJet. Amy, welcome to In Conversation. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Max, for having me.
Tell us a little bit about Vista and VistaJet. I'm familiar with the company. Unfortunately, I can't afford to fly on one of your planes or anything, but I would love to at some time. But the company's been growing by leaps and bounds recently. What have you been up to?
Well, it's been a very exciting journey to VistaJet and Vista. So VistaJet, it's really the first and only truly global companies that offer the solution. It's a premium product that offer the solution, flying solutions for clients looking for guarantee availability. It's a replication of aircraft ownerships, but without the asset risk, capital commitments, and management responsibility, etc. And Vista is the parent company that owns multiple brands, including AsBAA, and then we have it is really the created an ecosystem in business aviation. So it covers the full spectrum of solutions, from just need a one seat, for example, for fly, all the way up to premium products for VistaJet. So as a group, we are really the Vista Groups is the world's #1 on-demand provider for private flying.
Okay. Actually, our topic today is women in aviation. The old saying, women hold up half the sky, is always interesting. I've lived in Asia for a long time, so I hear that all the time. You've been with the company about 10 years or so, I think. What was the company like for women when you joined? Was it progressive, or were you one of the few women in the office at that time?
When I joined VistaJet about 10 years ago, it was a European brand, and then looking to expand in Asia. So, and like I said, really happy to see now the brand has grown to be a global brand. And then when I first joined, actually we in the office, it was a small team, but at that time we were already 50-50 in terms of the male and female ratio. So I would say it's not so much about the gender, but more about the competency and whether it's the right person that fits the company and share the vision so that we can grow together as a brand. The company really creating a very inclusive culture. Since day one that I joined, one of the things is I'm inspired by Thomas's entrepreneurship, and then also it's also about running a global brand is also about being global, but as well as being local. So we have a very equal playing field for different roles in the office.
So overall, and you were talking about Thomas, you mean Thomas Floor, who's the founder, and
yes, founder.
He's the top guy there. So
founder and chairman.
Right. Business aviation overall, how would you say that sector is doing? I'm not really talking about flight crews, which I'm guessing are probably skewed more toward female. But like in the main office, helping to run the show, in the industry overall, in your sector, is business aviation doing enough to encourage women into the industry?
I think I'm very glad that you asked the questions. It's a very good question, because most of the people, when they think of aviation, they often think of pilots and cabin hostess, but actually the staffs in the main office, there are from sales, marketing, customer service, all these departments, they made huge contributions to the business. And then looking at VistaJet, we have about 44% of its staff are female. And then if you look at our Asia office, 60% of our staff in the office are female. So I think, and also it's also, we have the company has been doing very well in providing the space and opportunity for staff to grow. One of the examples is, previously our president of Asia was also a female, and then she moved on to different regions. And now the president of the U.S. And then also, like myself, previously I was only on the marketing and events, and then my role was expanded to cover partnerships, business development side of things. And then now my region has expanded from APAC to both APAC and the Middle East. So the company-wise is very, it's a very good to kind of provide a space for the staff to grow.
Overall in aviation, I mean, I've been to a lot of conferences where IATA talks about getting more women involved in an industry. I think they have something called 25 by 2025 or some initiative like that, where 25% of the positions are filled by women. But it's hard. Yeah. It's really hard to get, especially now that so many people were laid off during the pandemic. Is the industry doing enough to get more women in the industry, whether it's even on the shop floors or, at MROs, but in the C-suites as well? Is the industry doing enough?
I think we have seen a lot of initiatives recently, especially in the regions, to promote women in aviation. So I would say, there are lots of stories to tell, but obviously there are certain roles that are, are more male dominated. But like we just mentioned, actually, looking at the wider business, women's contribution to the business is huge. So I would say it's more about creating the platform for the women in this industry to share their story. And so like what we're doing today to talk about women in aviation, it is more about sharing the success stories and then the examples of the industry. And then for organizations like AsBAA, Asian Business Aviation Association, it also has its Women in Aviation Committee. So there are more initiatives around the region rolling out. I think we are very positive in this area where it's heading.
I go to a lot of conferences, used to go to a lot of conferences before the pandemic, and then conferences went away and they all went online, but now they're starting back up. Even at some of these conferences, I find it interesting, it seems like 90% of the speakers are all men. Aren't there women experts that these conferences should call on?
I would say there are actually a lot of women experts in their own field, but they are not necessarily the external spokesperson for the company. So that's probably why we see at the forums there are more male speakers than female. So I think like we just AsBAA has the Women in Aviation event took place I think just in March. And then also Global Sky Forum as well took place in KL in February. And all these events started to happen with COVID when COVID's behind us. So we see more and more efforts and forums including these topics in their agenda. So this is a very good sign that we are creating this platform for women, and it's good to see all the organizers have this in mind. So this is a very good start, and to bring the industry together to build the awareness.
I think it's interesting, and if you ask your basic person on the street about women in aviation, they always seem to think, oh, it's a flight attendant. 9 times out of 10, they wouldn't mention that no, they could be a pilot or whatever. We're seeing that changing somewhat. There's a lot more women that are in the cockpit. Are you seeing that in business aviation? Are we getting more women pilots? And what about at VistaJet, for example?
I think the industry, based on the study of the industry association, like I think it's the International Society of Female Airline Pilots. I think the portions of the pilots is female pilots about 5%. For VistaJet, we stand at about 6%, so which is about the industry average. I mean, for pilots, particular for this role, it is more male dominated. But I think there is also, we have done a series of features of our female pilots to share their story for during International Women's Day. We run a series of campaigns. I think this is also one of the story is one of our Global 6000 captains. They're also the vice president of association founded to advocate women in aviation based in south of France. So it's interesting to hear how she started her career by meeting her mentor, by Inspire, meeting with the first female pilots on the supersonic airliners, and then that's how she found mentors, and then how she grows in the industry. So I think it's also very important to help the young generation to find their mentors, and for the companies to have the mentorship and training programs in place to encourage more people to get in the road.
Okay, we're going to talk about history very quickly, and then we're going to have to take a quick break. But there's throughout history, there's been a lot of famous women in aviation. Amelia Earhart, of course. There was a lady named Bessie Coleman, who was the first African American to get an international pilot's license. Catherine Chung, who is sort of considered the Amelia Earhart of China. There was a lady named Harriet Quimby. I had to look. I did a lot of Google searching on this. Quimby actually got her pilot's license 10 years before Amelia Earhart did. And she had a wonderful quote that I love. She said, "In my opinion, there is no reason why the airplane should not open a fruitful occupation for women." And kind of what happened between the early days of aviation and in the intervening period that sort of kept women out of the cockpit or out of, I mean, it was dominated by males until, the last few years. Is there anything special that happened at that time?
No, I think well, we've seen an increasing number of female pilots, and we, in also for us as well. But I do think that there are certain challenges that women have to face in terms of when it comes to jobs in the cockpit. Obviously, it takes you away from the family, and then for a long period of time. So I think, finding a balance between work and family is very important, and it's not easy. I think one of the things that we're very proud VistaJet is, majority we're working on 17 days on and 13 days off roster. So every roster, our crew will have solid period of time that they can spend with their friends and family. So to keep the work-life balance is very important. That would certainly help to encourage, make this choice easier for women to join.
Okay. Amy, we need to take a quick break here to hear from our sponsor, VistaJet of Hong Kong. We'll be right back after this.
We're going to have the crown jewels of Asia, and I promise you we're going to have the nicest and busiest business aviation hangar in the region.
And we're back. We are speaking with Amy Yang. She's Director, Marketing and Partnerships, Asia Pacific and the Middle East at VistaJet. You talked about AsBAA before, which is the Asian Business Aviation Association in Hong Kong, one of my favorite cities. I lived there for 10 years. And you're a part-time lecturer at Hong Kong University in the Business Aviation Executive Management Certificate course. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
It's a long title. I actually taught at the journalism school at HKU, and I lived there part-time, so that was fun.
Great.
But go back and talk a little bit more about AsBAA and some of the other organizations and what you're doing to encourage more women to join the industry.
Actually, it's for this course that we developed together with Hong Kong HKU Space. The reason is, one of the key things is people are very curious about the industry, but they don't really have a way to find out more information about it apart from what they read on the media. So this is really a platform for people, like for general public, to learn about our industry, and also a way in to help them to find jobs, to equip them with some basic knowledge of business aviation. So when they get into job interview, they already come prepared and have some basic understanding, what they're dealing with. And then also this course is also saving the company's training. Saving the company money for training. So that's why we have this course in place. It covers a variety of topics such as overview of the industry, sales and marketing, and business development, also legal and finance. So it has been proven very popular, and then it's also very helpful to bridging the gaps between companies and the shortage of talent for this industry. So for VistaJet ourselves, we recently already hired 2 students from this course, and in my last class, I have about more than 80% are females. So I'm very happy to see more and more people getting into this industry. And more females interested in it as well.
Yeah, 80% is good. Actually, I want to talk about MROs for a little bit, because it's interesting to me. For example, during World War II, when all the men were off fighting, you had women taking factory jobs. You had women building airplanes, Rosie the Riveter, and famous icons like that. I used to call the guys that were in the shop sort of the grease monkeys. And you think, it's a big guy, he's got to move a lot of heavy equipment and everything. But the MRO industry is changing a lot now, and now you need more what I call code monkeys, or people who understand data points and computers because of all the technology that's going into MROs. I mean, your typical Rolls-Royce engine or Pratt and Whitney engine is sending thousands of data points, in flight, and all this data is needs to be understood. So, I mean, you really don't need to be a man to work on the shop floor to understand all these data points, right?
Yeah, I think the technology really enable us to collect a large amount of data to help us to project the business growth. And for sure, it's not about gender. Again, it's competencies and capabilities to do the job. So and then at the end, when we have this data, it is still people who do the analysis and work the magic. So I think it is it also at the MRO. I mean, it's not just about. It will be more than maintenance personnel. They also need sales and also need marketing, and they need to build a brand. They need to communicate with clients and press about also the initiatives. All this definitely not only a job for men, but I think it go back to my point about building the platform to advocate and then the exposures to advocate women aviations, and also providing more exposures for the different kind of jobs and job variety that companies can provide, so people can know all their options.
Okay. I'm curious if you see regional differences in the industry when it comes to women in aviation. Is Europe doing better? Is the U.S. doing better? I've worked and lived in Asia since about 1989, and I just offhand, I would have thought Asia would be lagging somewhat, and it's a very unscientific opinion, but I think I see Asia maybe doing better than some other regions. Would you agree with that, or is there a region that stands out that you think is doing a better job of promoting and getting women in aviation?
Well, I wouldn't really compare because we are in a different stage of development in the industry. So Asia is not as mature. I mean, in terms of Asia, the markets is not as mature as in the US and Europe, but it's growing at a very fast pace. So it is one of the key growth markets for us in 2023, and we see very. We had great first quarters as a group in general, and we saw more than 50% growth in our program membership sales. So this is so Asian markets is definitely a very key markets to focus on in terms of the growth. So there are many prominent female leaders in this industry, and I see many business owners and senior management positions are female leaders who are in the industry for over 20 years. So I think that for Asia, I do see we have a lot of role models here that leading the way. And we're doing more and more, having the platform to tell the story, like what we're doing today. So this all help to contribute to the initiative.
What about in different sectors? I mean, is business aviation doing better, or OEMs like Airbus and Boeing doing better? Is there a particular aviation industry sector that is maybe doing a bit better at promoting women in aviation?
I would say it's important for us. It's important that we all are doing something, because we should celebrate every success and every initiative. After all, it's not a competition, and we all have a common goal. So, but for those who have more resources, such as OEMs and operators, they are indeed in a position to take the lead, to advocate, to participate in this initiatives, and contribute through their resources, and they have their leaders to share their stories, for example. And then you see more and more women in aviation forums happening, more women empowerment campaigns going out, more leadership stories featuring successful female entrepreneurs. So there are many successful stories to tell. So it's no matter whether it's a story about a successful female leader or a company who does well, by empowering women. I mean, we all have things to learn from each other, and they should all be celebrated.
Okay. Amy, last question. We're running a little bit short on time, but what do you see as sort of kind of peer into the crystal ball, and what do you see as the future when it comes to women in aviation, whether it's in your sector in business aviation or just overall in the entire industry? What's the bright spot out there that women can look forward to?
I'm very excited about the future. So just by looking at Vista, we have our female leaders in the ESCO committee, and then we're also looking at the industry. We have first chairwomen for AsBAA. So more and more organizations are conscious of the equal opportunities. And the importance of creating the inclusive environments in the workplace. So more stories of women in aviation are being told by press day by day, and then more association are providing platforms for women to support each other, to share experience, to network with each other. So, and then also the society in general is advocating women empowerment. So I think the industry is working together towards the same goals, and the network of knowledge and the female leaders is here. So it's something that younger women joining the industry can look forward to. So I'm very confident there will be more females taking on the leadership roles in the industry in the near future.
Okay, great. Amy Yang, Director, Marketing and Partnerships for Asia Pacific and the Middle East at Vista and VistaJet. Thanks for joining me in conversation.
Thank you.